listening to my so I become a researcher, obviously, as a lawyer and teaching a law degree. I looked at higher education and I thought, what more can we give to our students? It's not just the standard approach now. When we were at university, to where we sit in front of a classroom and we get lectured at for 2 to 4 hours, because we don't take it away, we don't keep it. And this is why when I started looking at the different pedagogies that were out there, how can I instill this into my teaching and recommend to other colleagues? So as you can see, the transcendence of problem-based learning in higher education. This presentation is going to look at the various different other pedagogies, along with PBL, into how we expand our traditional form of higher education and how we promote that into a successful HE program. So it would be remiss to not start with problem-based learning. I'm not going to read from the screens. I'm going to slightly go off topic on various different elements. So please do forgive me if you just wanted a standardized lecture. So problem-based learning has been around for generations upon decades. Predominantly, it has been acted within the medical programs, such as medicine and dentistry. But we've started to integrate this in higher education throughout a lot of different courses, whether it's planned or whether it's not. We all design our different lines of assessment with either problem-based or essay, and we form these ideas, these hypotheses of how we want to learn this and how we want to develop this. But the critical elements of problem-based learning and the other pedagogies that we'll discuss in a few slides is to have that the student-centered approach. It's about the integration of all students, not just the one, not just that really smart, engaging student that's in every single class. Not about that typical, stereotypical know-it-all student who will ask and who will develop. It's about bringing the entire cohort in and about discussion, having them discussions, having them debates, having that line of inquiry to really build not that group of students that collaboratively work together, but to develop the problem-based learning elements, the theory, the practice, the foundations of higher education, to which them students can take them skills into the workplace and be massively employable in comparison to the standardized approach of, you have a first-class degree, fantastic, but you can't speak to anyone. And that was really elements when I was discussing problem-based learning and developing this research into how do we make our students more employable focused? How do we advance the pedagogy within higher education? How do we actually put that in practice? So the first element when it comes to problem-based learning is team-based learning. And again, this is not typically like the standardized team as we've all had it, to where we put students in a group and we say discuss. We facilitate the conversation. As an academic, we facilitate that conversation within that group to get the students from point A to point B. We don't really give answers. We don't give considerations. We question the students. We build on their knowledge that they've already gained from the standardized lectures or from the workshops or from their wider reading. We encourage rigorous peer engagement through structured learning phases, and we really develop that preparation, that pre-class preparation, the understanding, the assurances, everything within a safe environment. And we really, really bring that out within the classroom. The caveat to that is that obviously if you have a classroom of 100 students, it's a lot harder to do. However, when it comes to seminars and workshops, team-based learning really does well between 15 to 20 students if they're broken down into 10 students per team. Equally, a lot of the larger institutions and small institutions obviously bridge that gap and understand the pedagogy a lot better. So we make them as smaller classes as possible to really have them discussions. But again, team-based learning, it is all about that safe environment. It's about that development point. It's about everyone speaking and understanding that nothing is a silly answer. Nothing is a silly question or a silly answer. The emerging trends with obviously team-based learning are the applicable natures of the online learning environments, to develop collaboration, discussions, and for having everyone to be able to access what they need to do whenever. Equally, whether this is a shared file or whether this is a WhatsApp group or an email train or a discussion board within them teams, it's all about giving the students ownership of their education. We give them the foundations in the standardized lecture and say, you need to read this, this is what we're going to learn, and then passing everything else to the student. They're in full control. It's their university experience, it's their higher education experience. The development of team-based learning on such of soft skills and hard skills, discussions, building that confidence is a key characteristic of team-based learning. And ever since COVID, and we're still within the COVID bubble for another 4 to 5 years, we've seen students coming through the door at stage 4, 1 foundation, and they can't speak, they can't talk, they don't know how to understand other students, they can't speak to other students. And it's a development issue to where every academic I speak to at every single conference, there's an issue with this. So team-based learning really bridges that gap and really brings that discussion in and focuses them team-based. Like I say, the key characteristic from team-based learning is them problem-solving skills, but it's the soft skills of discussion, debates, arguments, developing them relationships in a safe environment is a key characteristic to when TBL is really focused. And along with this, when it comes to when it's teamed with problem-based learning, we have something special. And we're starting to see that within a lot of institutions that have just focused on problem-based learning for the time being, that these pedagogies are starting to sink in and develop through higher education. So then we get into the next element of the pedagogical research of problem-based learning, which is contribution-based learning. And equally, this is very similar to everything that we've discussed so far. So the elements of problem-based learning, team-based learning are featured within this. We do this regardless. However, taking it one step further and actually developing these contribution-based elements within the classroom, we are rewarding students for something that is better for them. So we're playing a little bit of psychological game, and we're saying, right, okay, to the students, we would like you to do this. We would like you to communicate. We would like you to develop. We would like you to build your own knowledge for your employability aspects. And in addition to this, we will then, as facilitators, as academics, look at what you are contributing in every single session, and then we'll allocate a grade. We'll allocate additional feedback. We'll develop that safe environment, that demonstrate that peer review discussion into how good you are developing in year 1 to year 2 to year 3. And it's working. It's working. There is not a science to allocating grades, unfortunately, when it comes to CBL. So academics, and I recommend that you give a standard grade for every single lesson. If there's 12 lessons, you times them and divide by 12, and then you have an average grade. But again, this is very much subjective to the academic member of staff. There's no clear science, so there's a little bit of work that we could be building on CBL. But the peer review discussions, and again, the enhancement in critical thinking, ownership, learning, academic integrity, it's all there. We built on it within problem-based learning. We added team-based learning, and now we've enhanced it in contribution-based learning. We've developed the significance of implications of open access, knowledge, equity and equality, and we've also encouraged that learning environment, empowering the students, taking ownership and giving ownership to the students within the classroom to where we can help process, proceed, and get the students in a situation to where as soon as they have that degree or close after, they are employable, they can speak, they can advance. Obviously, there is concerns regarding misinformation, quality control, academic authority, which has to be addressed, and that'll be in a few different papers that I'll be writing later on in the year or next year. But again, it's how do we do that in such a limited scope? Medicine has a really good maneuver for it, but again, it's not transferred into various other different subjects. Colleagues have also raised various different elements of scholarly activity and collaboration, and we always have this. Every time we put a student cohort into groups, we always have the complaints and the conversations that one student isn't helping, one student isn't talking, and this is where contributions come. If the student is just not engaged, if they don't come in, if they don't show, they don't get a contribution grade element. And that may be quite harsh, but in reality, they're here to learn. They've signed their agreement, they've come proactively to gain that element, and they want a job. So sitting down with them students and explaining the rationale, the pedagogy, the understanding, and I generally do this in week one, and including open days to say what we are selling, how we are selling it, and how you will learn. So that we're giving students that ample understanding and acknowledgement. And the best thing about contribution-based learning, especially this year when I've had it in practice, is that I very much thought students with disabilities, whether physical or mental, would really suffer with contribution-based learning, problem-based learning, team-based learning. And they've shone. It has been an absolute breath of fresh air to see students with disabilities who I thought would struggle really relish the opportunity, discuss, develop them core soft skills that they need for employability aspect, and advance them all the way throughout the degree. But obviously, this is non-traditional learning methods. Although we'd like to think in some degrees and some masters, we factor in contributions or problem or team-based, they're still difficult to understand by certain academics who don't like to do it because they don't know how to do it. So again, part of this research is really developing and learning from them academics and academics who do this on a regular basis to see how we can advance it and what the struggles and what the barriers are in total. So again, institutional and policy implications, I think this is the biggest step I've had to come over this year. It's trying to get the institution to understand the amount of resources that we actually need to install this. Once it's up and running, no problem. But trying to adopt the different pedagogies and including them into course materials and also course module evaluation forms, etc., is very difficult. Universities, in my opinion, still see that the role of an academic is research, standing in front of a lectern, giving a 2-hour presentation, and then off you trot. I very much didn't get into academia for that, and a lot of my colleagues didn't also. But from a policy perspective, once this is carried out and once this is installed, the level of skills of universities and what we actually do to teach in the degree is second to none. And that's really something that I'm passionate about. Elements and examples of problem-based learning. So again, when we were talking about it before, it is that student-centered approach. It's a student learn about the different experience, open-minded problems, and question the narrative. They question why. They develop into, well, we should change this, well, we should develop this. And that's something of direct studies that we cannot give in a standardized lecture. We want students to challenge the perception. We want students to question. That's the critical analysis. That's the critical development. They're the ones that get you the high grades, but they're the ones who are also getting you into the employability aspect. So again, I've got a few examples for you. I am aware that time's clocking on, so we'll fly through these example slides. As I said, medical students diagnosing patients, engineering students designing bridges, business students with marketing plan. There is a ton of others. Obviously, in law, I get a lot of my students to interview clients, to do drafting processes, and also question the law and develop whether that's right, whether it's morally and ethically right. But these are just some of the basis of examples of problem-based learning. When it gets to creation with problem-based learning, so this focuses on, again, the problem solving, the tangible products, the innovation, the creativity. It develops and enhances that conversation and that structure a little bit more than problem-based learning. I normally do a lot of creation in year 2 and year 3, I normally stick to team and problem-based learning in year one, just so that we get the students settled, they understand the process, and then next year we take up the next point. Examples of CB-BL, again, sculptures, developing software, designing buildings. We're asking the students to do something, to use their own skills, their imagination, what they've learned within the lectures, within the classes from year one, from year two, outside. We are bringing real life employable skills into the classroom. We're developing that understanding. Team-based learning, as we've already discussed, again, structured from small groups. I like to have them in groups of 13. I think anything more than 13 and anything less than 10 is difficult. Equally, they work in permanent teams over a year, and then we mix them up. But we have that individuality, we have that group accountability. We ask the students to write a constitution. We ask the students to write rules on what an ADR. We really develop that group, and especially into law, we develop it into a law firm. There's a chair, there's a secretary, and there's a scribe. That changes every single week. And we really push the team-based learning, problem-based learning aspect into a real life situation. So students know for 12 weeks, they have a law firm, they work with people, they know the people, they carry on that conversation, and they really develop that understanding.
Just 5 minutes past, thank you.
Thank you. Examples, again, medical students, will just flip through these. Contribution-based, as we've already discussed, so real-life projects, meaningful contributions, and engagement and motivation. That's the real key aspect. It's making them students fully employable for the future, understanding that university provides a safe environment, and how they can develop as an adult, as a well-rounded adult in the world of education and for their next steps. Again, examples, community service, open source software projects, collaborative research, interdisciplinary play, volunteering. There's just a host of it. So the motive behind these, behind based learning, is to encourage active learning, develop critical thinking, and really to bring them real life challenges within education. Theory is fantastic. I did my undergrad with theory, but my God, by year 3, I was utterly bored. So really bringing them educational processes into the world of education and theory is key and is a critical element of all of the base learnings. And how we do that as academics, we should be proactive, we should be approaching. We should really create that safe environment for students to ask the difficult questions, to raise the competency issues, and to challenge the perception. So, conclusion, HE is evolving. To say anything else would be completely remiss and negligible of me. AI creates distinct issues of diversity in assessment, and as we've seen, universities and assessments seem to be under attack. We can't keep up with OpenAI, we can't keep up with ChatGPT. Turnitin is absolutely useless, and trying to understand that and develop that is just a non-starter. So why don't we diversify exams? Get rid of the closed book, get rid of the essays, have more memos, have more Viva style presentations, have presentations in general, have moots, have debates, have negotiations, have interdisciplinary presentations. Get the students to actually do something, that they will be doing something in practice, in real life employability. Unless you're an academic, you're not going to have to write anything. And as an essay, for example. If you're in practice, a medical doctor, you have to write little notes. That's it. Offering students more than a theoretical framework is critical to HE and employability. It is a successful student. It's what we need to develop in an evolving HE world, on how we sell ourselves, how we develop our modules, and how we give the best to students. And I think I will leave that there. Thank you very much.
Excellent.